now that we have a little bit more context on what the paper is all about, I think maybe I should bring in another motivation for the paper, as the authors themselves kind of state it. It's thinking about big push policies. And just to give that a very quick definition, that's when an organization, usually the government, makes coordinated attempts to help incentivize and encourage economic development. So that comes a lot in the form of investment. It comes in the way of different incentives that are given to people. And just to kind of give an idea of what those incentives mean, really. For example, in Canada here, we are taxed less. We can bring down our tax brackets if we can contribute to RRSPs. So that's an incentive for you to kind of keep thinking ahead, thinking about the future, saving a lot more. So incentives of that sort can work really well in different economies. Danny Roderick, Hirschman, some of the biggest names we have as economists have written about Big Push, the way that it worked in places like Korea, Japan, Taiwan. It worked really well because even though we always talk about, free economies, the capitalist system, sometimes the government being involved and making sure that there's no coordination failure, that investment is going to the places that it needs to, is really helpful. Another side of Big Push, what we're talking about today in poor economics. So I just wanted to ask you what you think about what this says about Big Push policies, what a role we can play, whether we're government, an organization, whatever it may be, especially in the context of Bangladesh.
Yeah, I mean, that's an excellent point. Overall, connecting something that's coming from macro, right? Economics. The Big Push theory, it says, just for the audience again, it says the poor economics and the individual can develop incrementally, right? You need a coordinated effort and coordinated push by the whole economy, maybe a government, or maybe by a foreign rich country giving some kind of an aid, right, to this poor country, which our current president doesn't believe in, unfortunately. So what this paper does, it shows a micro version of that. Instead of a nation, we are now looking at individuals, right? This Bangladeshi woman didn't need 10 small trainings. Let's say not a weekly training. They just needed one bold intervention, a cow in this context, a training, support, and I think the most importantly, which is why I'm a huge fan of Dr. Yunus, is a bit of trust.
Yes,
right?
absolutely.
And that is their big push. So, but the challenge for us as well as the policymakers in other countries, can we design policies? Let's say even at UBC, in our department that we heavily work on, some of my colleagues, David Green and others, in Iran, where you were born, and in Canada, right, globally, that provides this kind of catalytic capital or support at the right moment. That's what we should be asking at this point to the politicians, and especially to our Prime Minister at this point. Otherwise, we're just nudging people stuck in a quicksand, right? So,
no, you kind of hit it on the head there, I think. And something you mentioned there, trust.
Yeah.
I was just thinking about, I actually wrote it down. I was thinking about another paper that I'd read by Carter, Lajaj, and Yang. And they were looking at poor economics in Mozambique. And it was another form of intervention, another form of big push in the form of subsidies, and seeing how people will respond if fertilizers are heavily subsidized, so that, agriculture in Africa has been known to not be moving and going in the same pace as other places. So they wanted to see how these subsidies are helping people. Are they at all? And what they found, interestingly, is that the subsidy alone, at some point it went away, but people who were in social networks, in trust circles, where more and more of them won the lottery where they got the subsidy, were able to use it for longer because there was now community learning and progress. But here's the thing, you mentioned this as well. The example of Balboni is very micro. It's very in this very, almost unrelatable setting compared to what we see in developed economies. Same with Mozambique, where they're in agrarian stages of agriculture and of economic development. What does this mean for, you touched on it a little bit, what does this mean for a country like Canada? For more developed economies where physical capital exists, of course, but it's kind of, we've passed that. We're now in the stage of human capital. It's not as easy as saying, oh, you need a cow that's worth $450. The threshold is complex. The threshold is nuanced. What does this mean for developed economies?
Yeah, and this is an interesting question and kind of close to my heart, because the way I teach in general, right? How we learn something from a research and then apply this for businesses, for politicians, for government, right? So I think the biggest takeaway of the paper is some people just aren't poor because they are not trying. And I think Dr. Amartya Sen, the economist that you quoted, he talks about that too. It's just giving frequent money may not help. We just need to focus on their capabilities. For example, giving proper health incentives, education, and make them capable of using that money properly. So see, we're connecting two things now. First of all, making them capable is very, very important.
Yes.
Also, and then not like those quick money here and there. It's just a big push together.
Absolutely.
That will boost them up. So they're poor because they're stuck below that threshold level that we have been discussing, and the incremental help doesn't cut it. Right. A very good example in Bangladesh I can quickly share with you, and it just kind of resonated with me. When I was started teaching, right, very young teacher at SFU, right, I remember we had a Bangladeshi student there, and we come from a Muslim country, right? So over there during Ramadan, right, we give zakah or this donation to people, a small amount. Let's say your donation you're supposed to give $500, right? So we used to give like $5 to each. Then you can give it to 100 different poor people. We used to feel so good. I supported 100 people. But she told me her family does something very different. What they do, they take the whole $500, give it to a family. Let's say buy a rickshaw. In Bangladesh, you'll see rickshaw like Japan. Rickshaw pullers make a daily wage or whatever, right? And then just literally took the family maybe out of poverty, right?
Yeah,
because they're giving you an earning source. So that's something I resonated right away. So coming back to Canada at this point, you probably heard of this too. We have discussed this before. Let's take a Canadian example. It's called the housing first model. And for the audience, again, we have seen in cities like Vancouver and Toronto that provide a stable housing upfront. This project was supposed to do that, especially the people who are going through homelessness and drug issues and others. So this money was provided without any preconditions, and we have seen that can dramatically reduce that homelessness and emergency services cost. So that's like an example of big push intervention. And today I was doing some studies on this, how successful it was. And according to the study, that 85% of these people are doing better after even 5-6 years. Right? So it's not like earn your way up. It's just we'll give you the foundation first so you can stand on your own. Right? So it can be housing, it can be a small workspace for countries like Canada. It can be what's very close to me and connected to some of my projects too, is that giving access to the social network.
Absolutely.
Right? Especially newcomers to Canada. I work with a lot of newcomers to Canada. Me being a newcomer too, at an adult age, it was tough.
Yeah. Absolutely. No, and I think the example you said with housing, a lot of the times I think people invest in education, because I think it also happens because there's other models that are looking at multiple equivalents. So there's stages. So first it might be that cow. The second one is that house. The third one is that education. And I think a lot of times people sort of see themselves investing. I know that's the case for me, that you keep studying, or you keep going to work, you just can't seem to break out of that feeling of I'm just stuck here. I can't seem to go high up. And it really depends, like, again, social network that you brought up. Is it because of the people I'm hanging out with? Is it because of the network that I don't have? Am I not at the top of, the field that I'm in because of the fact that I didn't go to that specific school? I mean, we know that, Ivy League in the United States especially is a, very exclusive club. And so I guess that kind of leads me to my next question, where if we're thinking about big push, if we're thinking about poverty traps or capital thresholds or whatever sort of trap that gets us stuck, I think we discussed it a little bit on a government side. But what does that mean for a business owner? What does that mean for an individual, for a student? How can they take this paper and say, okay, like, I didn't just listen to this talk for no reason. This applies to me.
Yeah, I mean, I'll start with some individual newcomer example very quickly, and then I move to business owners, especially in Canada, how they can take the lesson out of this paper and apply, and then policymakers also. So we have worked with more than 1,000 newcomers to Canada. I know I'm extremely proud of this. It's a super expensive project, and I'm glad that we have 25 to 30 people are working around us. Some of the UBC students are working with us too. On that, we have realized these newcomers, one of the biggest issues they have, the push they needed a proper network around them, similar to the way people graduate from Harvard. So they have Harvard alumni to
Yeah.
help them to bring them up. Same with UBC alumni, and we have fraternity here, right?
Yeah.
That help them to push up. Then similar, and I've seen amazing things. I've seen a player from Hyderabad, very polite, Hyderabad, India, very polite and everything. He just doesn't talk too much. Excellent cricketer. I saw him from he used to go to University of Canada West. So I've met him at the ground, and then I've connected him with. We have a club called Hyderabad Cricket Club, also run by some of the amazing people. So through that club, he got housing.
Yeah.
He got his first job.
Yeah.
The people were helping him, right? So
Yeah.
these, I also think, the idea of that big push, the idea of crossing the threshold, for him that was the threshold.
Yeah.
Right. And as you correctly said, all of us have different stages of life, of different thresholds level, right? So I would say for business owners, just think like that. How can we rethink our hiring practices as a business owner? For example, in my foundation, all of the people are mostly also newcomers to Canada, right? So they needed that push, right?
Yeah.
So instead of only picking the most job-ready candidate, I know that I'm talking against kind of maximizing profit or whatever, productivity, but business to me, or foundations, my non-profit organizations, to me is much bigger than that, right? So what if you gave someone on the margin, for example, say a newcomer woman with some gaps in her resume, a real chance plus training?
Yeah.
Because people are not thinking long-term, right?
Yeah.
People are thinking short-term productivity, short-term
Definitely.
profit.
And
I can guarantee you this person might be would be the most loyal and driven employee you've ever had.
Absolutely. Yeah. And actually, on the topic of that, I think even if we're, because I know that most of the work that you do is very much community based and about getting people together, helping them, because you have such a personal touch with it. But even if we don't want to go in that extreme case, as we were talking about before, we talked about how people don't quit the job, they quit the manager that they have. Yeah. And I think a lot of businesses, they invest all this money in the onboarding process. And honestly, onboarding is a very costly process for businesses, for different firms that do it. They have to allocate a lot of resources. And they keep seeing that people are quitting on them. Yeah. They keep seeing that people are taking maybe a really good training session and they're going somewhere else with it. So maybe the big push there is who is in charge of this in your specific company. If you're hiring people and you're seeing that the exit rate is just way too high, then maybe that's what you need to rethink. Yeah. Because, a lot of managers, company owners, small business owners may be thinking, okay, I am investing so much in this. I'm hiring new people, but that productivity that I'm looking for, and it doesn't even have to be new hires. I'm sending my staff onto new courses maybe. I want them to get certified. Why am I not getting that productivity that I'm looking for? Who's in charge of running it? How are they getting the equipment that they need? You gave them training. Did you give them the equipment? Did you give them the space where they could share their ideas? So I think that's also on a business level. Yeah. Concepts like poverty, the concept of getting stuck is just applicable to so many things. It just so happens that it's easier to study in poor economics because it's, there's numbers, and it's simple. There's a lot of trials that happen, but it really exists everywhere. And I think on the individual level, for me personally as a student, it took a long time to realize where that stuckness was happening, and I'm sure you have personal experiences with that as well. Yeah, of course. Like UBC a fantastic employer too. Just we won't be pushing this too much. I have tons of examples. I'm just gonna give you one. That we do have something called Professional Development Fund. Yeah. It's like for professors, right? We can buy equipments. We can go do a degree somewhere. We can take a course somewhere. For example, recently I've been very interested in nutrition, right, and health, mental health. I can take a course at UBC right now, and the department will pay for it. Yeah. Right. So why they're doing it, right? It's doing like everyone needs that kind of a push, right? Yeah. And you cannot look at the employees as a number anymore. For example, from policymakers' perspective, giving someone 100 a month, instead if you give them like 1,200 once to help them. I think government's already doing that in Canada. Just to be fully honest with you. I work with PICS. They work with a lot of newcomers. They're Surrey-based, largest newcomer settlement agency in Canada, actually. So I'm very proud to work with them. What they do, they can give access to this credential recognition. They can help them to launch a business, get their first job. So research shows, and this paper also kind of gave us the evidence, that the upfront investment, this kind of upfront investment yields a much better long-term sustainable impact. And a lot of companies are not thinking doing that.
Right? So,
as you said, not long-term, short-term.